Internet. Hi, hello, and welcome to a very special off-week episode of the... Well, it's not off-week anymore. Now we just kind of do it sometimes.
We just kind of do it when we do it.
We just do it when we do it. A very special episode of the Game Brew crew. We lovingly call this the GameView podcast, where we'll dissect a movie that is based on, loosely or otherwise, a video game or franchise, and give it a rating with our handy Game Brew rating system. TM. Hey, guys. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan. I'm Chris.
Chris.
I'm Allison.
It's Allison.
I'm Carrie.
That's Carrie. And hey, do you guys remember that time when I used hundreds of computers to make an absolutely mediocre movie?
No.
No.
Me neither, but I'm Dan and I'm here and I'm joined by all of these people. So we're going to talk about Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within from 2001. Just want to make sure, get some levels here. Can somebody say something?
Something.
There we go. That was enough.
Your world.
Don't do that. Don't Disney songs on the podcast.
It's okay. We're not playing it.
That's true. That's true. So we watched Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. I do want to we're just going to do a quick take from everyone first before we start. Carrie, start with you. Did you enjoy this film?
Well, my spirit within yawned like 10 times.
Okay, gotcha. Chris, how was your spirit within?
My spirit was looking at my phone more than I wish I was.
Allison, what about you?
Yeah, it's wicked mediocre.
Wicked mediocre.
Aggressively mediocre.
They're so fucking mediocre, dog. But this is a beer and video game podcast, so we are going to talk about what we're drinking. I want to start with me because it's slowly melting. I'm drinking a spirit. I put some tequila.
And you're putting it within?
I'm putting it within. I took some tequila, and then I put some blue curacao with it, and then I put orange soda on it. So it kind of looked like the ghost alien things initially, and then now it's just kind of green. But also,
yeah, I won't say what that looks like now.
It looks like iced tea.
It looks like, it looks pretty green. It looks like those weird like super drinks that you get.
Oh, yeah.
Like has like 5 apples
healthy.
And spinach and has
and grass,
like
wheatgrass.
Yeah,
I do like those actually, honestly, a little bit.
Weirdo.
But yeah, it tastes like soda. I'm a little weird. It's fine.
You look like the healthy type, Dan.
Only because I'm sitting down. If you could stand up and watch me go up some stairs, you'd know it's not good. It's not good. It's like, he went up one flight. Why is he out of breath? Because he drinks too much beer for this podcast. Chris, what are you drinking?
Dan, do you know what time of year it is?
It's almost Oktoberfest time, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Nice. So you're drinking some Oktoberfest, some fest beers?
Yes, I'm drinking the Polliner Oktoberfest beer from Munich. So this is one of the 6 that they serve at the main event. And it is, as expected, delicious. And highly chuggable.
Highly chuggable. The chuggability rating is off the charts for those.
It really is. They're
nice.
So good.
Well, happy.
Is that your favorite? Like, is that your favorite kind of beer?
It's like the Rib Witch. Or the McRib. Sorry,
the McRib.
McRib.
Rib Witch.
Okay, it's like Rib Witch.
I feel like that was what they called it in The Simpsons.
I don't know. I never watched The Simpsons. I wasn't allowed.
I just sound like a spooky character. I'm here for your ribs.
Oh god. Oh god, no.
Yeah, no. So it's like the McRib in that, like, because I don't like really get them year round. When they comes around, I like go all in on it, and I basically just drink Oktoberfest for
it's gonna be
2 months.
This whole next couple months. It's just Oktoberfest. Nice. Miladies, any fun beverages? Or are we just doing
I'm just doing my regular witch's brew of coffee, a little caramel coffee with some Italian sweet cream and 2 Splendas.
Oh, I love sweet cream. I love coffee so much. I could drink it all the time if it didn't keep me awake.
Well, this time of day, I need it. Or else I'm ready for bed.
And Allison is hydrating.
Yeah, I got water. She's recovering from the spirits she had within her last night.
Were you guys like out on the were you guys like out on the town, or were you playing games? What was happening?
ARAM. We were playing ARAM.
Yeah, we were
League of
just playing
Legends.
games.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yesterday
Yeah.
was just a long day, and so we started playing games really late, and then that went too late with too much alcohol. So.
I wouldn't say it was too much. I would say just enough. We had Sassy Fee and Sing Songy Fee and Sassy Allison. It was great.
I love that. I love that version of Fee. Whenever he starts singing songs, that's when
it's so fun.
He's having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a gaming podcast. I mean, I'm still playing Baldur's Gate 3. Chris?
Same.
Carrie?
Real good.
Actually, go ahead.
So one thing I did do is one of the D&D groups I'm playing with right now. It's set in Azeroth, so the world of Warcraft.
Oh, the Warcraft.
Yeah. So basically, starting at around level 1, the first we did the Dead Mines, and then we did the Stockades, and then we did Shadowfang Keep. We just got back from going over to Alkaz Island. So these are all places or dungeons in World of Warcraft. And then we were doing like a one-shot that was Nomergon. So
that's fun.
That was and we did that all in person. So that was a ton of fun.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool. My favorite one, my favorite dungeon in there was the one with opera. What was that one called? You get one of 3 events. So you can either get the Little Red Riding Hood on the stage, or you would get.
What was that? Oh, was that the one of the castles?
Yeah, it was a mansion. Anyhow, that's not what I was talking about. Karazhan, that's it. That's right. That's the one you need to do in your campaign.
That'd be well, that's kind of one of the ways we're going.
Nice.
So we'll see. It'd be cool.
I've been playing Shapes too.
Is this just?
Yeah, it's pretty much like the Factorio and Satisfactory.
Okay.
But it's really basic, really, really basic. And it's really neat because you can scroll out and it looks like circuitry when you're kind of done, because it's got a hub, which is like the processor in the middle where all your shapes feed into, and it makes you make certain types of shapes. So you have to find colors and use little machines to mix the right colors together to dye your shapes, and then cut and spin and stack your shapes. It's a really chill game. Okay. And this week I've needed something a little bit more chill. I'm still dabbling in Baldur's Gate 3. I actually recreated my evil character.
Gotcha. Nice. I know there's a lot of people. I feel like there were a lot of people who created someone and then they were like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, you know what? I need to go back and recreate the person because I need to make them exactly the way I wanted them to." I'm still making.
I wasn't feeling it.
I still haven't left Act 1 because I'm doing all of the things.
Oh yeah,
I'm running all over the place, just finding all the secrets.
Oh, it's fun though. It's great. I mean, I think it's definitely worth the money spent on it, because there's just so many things you can.
So much is happening.
Get in there and explore, and
so much is happening. So many people want to bone me. It's so weird.
It's true.
It's wild. It's like, guys, I'm only one half drow.
It's just the guys
and girls.
Just the guys. Oh,
all
okay.
of them. Doesn't matter. Guys is a term I use for everybody.
Okay.
But it's kind of like dude and boy, like BOI is a term I use for all people all over the place. Allison, anything fun? Well, I guess you're playing ARAM yesterday.
That's kind of it, honestly. I've been working a lot last week, so haven't really gotten much gaming time.
Palia.
I haven't really even played much Palia lately, so
I've been playing Palia, actually. It's pretty nice. It's pretty relaxing.
You need to join our community.
It's not that there's much to do with people, which I think is like the place that suffers, but like as far as the game itself, it's a really nice Harvest Moon-esque game, and it's well made, and it's like filling that void for me. I just wish, because they made it multiplayer, that there was more.
There was
true
actual
multiplayer.
Instead, it's just you're all running around the same place.
I mean, cooking can be multiplayer.
Like, yeah, you can farm together, but I don't know. It's just kind of awkward the way it is.
Somebody cooked here. Sorry, that's a meme right now. In case everybody is, it's on TikTok all the time. But yeah, it's fine. But you know, we're gonna do the thing we came here to do. Is we're gonna talk about this Final Fantasy movie that came out. So everybody watched Advent Children, right? Watch Final Fantasy Advent Children.
I wish.
No, that probably would have been better.
Yeah, it definitely would have been better. So Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. I'm just gonna read you the. This is what the description of the film is. Here we go. A scientist makes a last stand on Earth with the help of a ragtag team of soldiers against an invasion of alien phantoms.
Wow.
There we go.
And as a spoiler, half that ragtag team died in the middle of the movie, and you didn't have them for the rest. Like I think at that point in the movie, I was like, "Oh, this movie's going to end soon." Oh, it's still got 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's still very long. There's still a lot that has to go out in this movie.
I mean, that's one of the things that made it suffer so much was the length.
It was probably half an hour too long.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that pushed it over budget. It's like, why? I don't know. Why couldn't we rethink that, cut that, and then maybe this wouldn't have been so crazy over budget?
I think one of the things I was reading, just some actual, like some other people reviewing it, and a lot of the commentary I was hearing was of people that really liked it, is that it was Japanese storytelling, and that that was
and that you have to do it backwards.
No, and it's kind of different. Like Americanized storytelling has a lot more action. It's a lot more quick gratification, where Japanese storytelling animation is a lot more deeper, like deeper stories, deeper, a lot more talking. It's a lot more dialogue, especially at that time.
I would agree, except it's meaningful dialogue and meaningful storytelling, and I don't know, this all felt so empty.
Well, that's because there are about 56 to 57 script rewrites whenever they're going through it. In fact, one of the things at the end that they don't really explain and doesn't make any sense is because they took it out to make it seem less Japanese. They wanted it and make it more American.
What was that?
So spoiler alert, everybody, just in case. So at the end, the eighth spirit, you remember how she like falls asleep and then the spirit reaches inside her and then takes the eighth spirit out? That was supposed to be her unborn child that she conceived with Gray. And the spirit from that was supposed to be what it took to be the final spirit to make it a whole thing. And they didn't like
Wouldn't that have made more sense, though?
It's slightly more than instead of them just being like, "Oh, we found it."
And in the original cut of the movie, they have her say to him before he dies that she's pregnant. And the audience reacted very negatively during the initial screenings of that they changed it.
Like it was too dark?
I don't know why. I don't remember reading what the audience exactly was saying, but it was just saying it was a negative reaction to her.
I mean, we all know in 2001, unwed mothers, we're not into it. We're not into it.
Yeah, but this is 2065, Dan.
2001? No, I think we were past that. We were past the Murphy Brown, era. So
all right,
I think we're okay at that point.
So I'm going to kind of describe the plot from the beginning so we can kind of get some sort of structure here. So it starts off in the year 2031, 34 years prior to the start of the film.
Does it?
Yeah. Well, there's like this, there's a meteorite that slams into Earth.
Remember that whole thing at the beginning, and then she was like, "Oh, that was a dream," and we're all like, "Oh,
okay," and we were like, "Cool."
Yeah,
Well-
so that happens first.
Yeah.
So, but it actually
yawned.
opens up in 2065 with Dr. Aki Ross, played by Ming-Na Wen.
Mina Wen.
We
Mulan.
we stand
love
a
her.
queen, and Ming-Na Wen is a queen.
Yeah, and to mention her, like, it's really sad that she's the lead of this movie because we all know she's capable, and she was so bland, but they asked her to be this way.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because do you think that was because they were trying to make it so Aki Ross
Yes.
would be like available to do other movies?
Yeah, that's literally what they said. They said that they told her to be as like completely like nothing, so she seemed like such a blank slate that other movie like productions, I guess, would get excited about grabbing her and putting them in the movies because she was supposed to be the first virtual actress.
Yeah, and I want to get back to that later.
Well, yeah, that's the question. Do we do it now?
I want to talk about it later.
We don't have much structure yet, but should we go with that now, or should we go through the plot and come back to that?
We'll go through the plot and we'll come back to that in a little bit later. Because she's played by Ming-Na Wen. She could actually do both things at the same time while she was filming ER at the time. Because this was done over 40 years. BT Dubs came out in 2001, so it was like
but they weren't brought in until the second year. That voice acting wasn't brought in until.
But it was like every 4 months or something like that. Okay, but anyway, she's on her ship, the Black Boa. And she recorded a dream she had of like some aliens on a planet, and then something happens. And then she lands in old New York because the world has been destroyed, and they don't really tell us a whole lot, but there's something called phantoms that are around that will kill you. And she's about to be murdered, and then she's rescued by a squadron known as Deep Eyes, which they never say until later. But they do reference Deep Eyes a bunch, and it makes it very confusing. Because I was like, I don't know what that means.
One of the biggest problems, for sure, is them doing things like that. Like, it feels like a lot of the complaints I had with our last movie are going to be echoed here, because the script and plot were just so bad, because it was just so all over the place, and things weren't explained that should have been explained, and so it's just, I feel deja vu.
But this movie, I mean, surprise, such a small voice cast, but a great voice cast, because we had
incredible voice cast.
Sergeant Ryan Whitaker, who's part of Deep Eyes, Ving Rhames, who you know from everything,
Pulp Fiction,
Cobra
the
Bubbles.
late great.
He's in all the Mission Impossible movies. Then we had Neil Fleming, who's Steve Buscemi, and then Jane Proudfoot, Perry Gilpin. And then Gray Edwards, Alec Baldwin.
His acting was so flat in this. So flat.
That might have been the same thing as Ming-Na Wen. Maybe.
I don't know. He just sounded like himself, but
I mean, I think that's Alec Baldwin's whole acting persona.
He was in the 2 worst movies of that year. We'll get back to that.
We'll get back to that later. So then Aki finds.
And Donald Sutherland.
Oh, and Donald Sutherland's there. He's he's Sid in this because it's a Final Fantasy movie. So
yeah, is that the only Final Fantasy name is Sid?
But
that's like one of the connecting
tissues.
It's not the same Sid, but like they often have the same.
Yes, Sid is kind of the one name that comes up in all Final Fantasies, and that's like meant to be kind of an Easter egg, if you will.
Yeah, a nod. So they're in old New York. All of a sudden, like they save her because all these phantom things start going. But Aki wants to keep finding stuff. She finds the little green plant. And she's like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. It has a spirit. And then they're
looking for 8 spirits. I don't know if we mentioned
they're looking for 8 spirits. And then Aki reunites with Dr. Sid. They go up. There's this really cool. I think this is one of the scenes that's really cool, is because they go into New York or New York.
New.
After they save her, and they go in, they have to get scanned because apparently you get like if like you get infected by like these phantoms, there could be phantom particles in your body that make you like I guess die. They never really say what happens with the phantom particles.
Well, yeah, but they kind of show you at certain points, like I think sort of.
Yeah.
I always like thought of it as like radiation, but they don't explain it. So that's just what my brain went to because that's something I could relate to like normal
radiation.
Well, what it was is the Gaia theory. They kind of talked about that a little bit in the making of, where basically we all have this Gaia spirit that comes from the Earth, and so this is alien Gaia spirit from their planet, and it destroys your Gaia spirit. Your connection.
Isn't that
Earth.
Cool? Why did you have to watch the making of to know that? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that have been great to tell us during the movie?
So Aki is actually the name of the creator, the writer, director, everything, Sakaguchi's mother. And she had passed away 13 years earlier from an accident. And so I was watching an interview with him. And so he says, I'm reading a quote from him, "The question of what happens to the spirit after death, these thoughts occupied me a great deal during certain periods, but my thoughts from those periods came back during the planning of this film and took the shape of the Gaia theory." So his mother's passing in the accident, which was a traumatic experience for him, is what kind of shaped his the story for Final Fantasy.
Interesting
for him, for the what happens to our spirits when we die. I mean, do we leave this earth? Are we part of the earth?
Yeah,
but that's a very Wiccan kind of ideology.
I was gonna say is like that's very like it's very like new New Age philosophy,
Well, sure, yeah, Wicca, but and which is not New Age; it's old school. But it's paganism.
Yes,
but your energies, witchy. We all exist. We all have energy. Everything in this world has energies, and we're all connected through our energies. And our energies return to the earth when we die.
But see, I didn't get that.
Well, from the movie, no, because they don't explain. No, because they don't explain.
No, I'm saying that's paganism.
But
even the similarities to it, they
didn't translate that well. Like I said, I got radiation.
Yeah.
Okay. It kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
That's the way it was translated to me with what we were given, which wasn't enough.
And they shoot it with little internal lasers in your body whenever they put. And they say lots of they're really good. It is I would have made it be like, or say it was like a Final Fantasy movie because they use a lot of terms that I didn't understand for things, and then it's just like you're just like, okay, that's what happened. He's like, we have to put on the first aid shield. It's like, wait, a shield for first? Wait, so does it shield from the first, or does it shield? No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
But then, so they go in. They come back. Oops, Gray has this stuff inside of him. Aki manages to do it. She's all mad that they're trying to scan her because turns out she's infected with like a spirit thing, and the only way that they could stop her from being taken over by it was to do the 8 spirit theory, which is where they're trying to find the 8 different spirits of the earth.
I thought it was the 8 spirits that originated from the asteroid. Am I wrong? Did I misinterpret that? Oh
we don't
my
know.
God.
Who knows? I
thought that's what it was. I thought it was the 8 spirits that they were destroying. The original spirits.
Blah blah. Her condition. Oh, we're also introduced to the bad guy. The bad guy, who again, very Final Fantasy bad guy, is more stupid than bad.
Yes.
Played by James Woods. So good.
Great
General
bad
Hine.
guy.
He's so great. He's
Hades.
Hades. He's great. He's perfect. Oh, puppers.
Don't fall.
But let's see, blah blah blah. They also have this thing called the Zeus cannon that they want to use to destroy the Leonid crater. The Phantoms are all
that's
coming
pretty
from.
Final Fantasy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Big old gun, fire it at a thing. That'll do it. So she's
government containing people and barriers and sectors.
So Hein asks for proof that Dr. Sid's strategies hold water. Akira carries infection due to exposure to phantom particles from a few months ago. She's alive because the particles of her body contain and monitored by a chest plate, which creates a shield of spiritual wavelengths that counter the particles' growth. However, her conditions, blah, blah, is temporary. In order to cure, Aki needs to collect the signatures of 8 spirits. These spirits must possess specific wave patterns, which, when combined and used against the phantom spirits' similar patterns, could neutralize them forever.
Used against the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they are all things like it. One was like a bird. One was a little girl who was supposed to be in the movie, but then they cut her out of it, named Meg. And the other one was, and then there was the plant.
Yeah, and they had like the energy thing, which is made of plants and animals.
It's made of I forget what they said in the movie, but it's something like the Ovu packs
the power packs or the Ovu packs are of
spirit energy.
Yeah.
Right, and that's part of it. It's like you need to take spark notes yourself while you're watching the movie, so you understand things like what they need 8 spirits. What are these 8 spirits, and what are they really doing? But then you have to write your thesis at the end, and then you might get your doctorate in Final Fantasy. However, it's still probably going to be wrong to what was actually intended by the movie because there's no context. But you kind of, that's the thing, like you have to connect all these lines yourself during the movie, and that's something that makes it very complicated. Like as a viewer, you want to have to do that a little bit, but it shouldn't be the whole movie and every piece of the movie, which made this movie exhausting, and that's why we all had our like opinions, I feel like, about it.
So I have a theory. And this theory is based off of watching like interviews for this, a little bit of the CGI making of. The way this movie was advertised was nothing to do with the story and everything to do with the groundbreaking CGI. And even Donald Sutherland was talking about, they showed me a little bit of this. They brought me in and showed me a little bit of this, and I was blown away by what they were doing. And that's what got me interested in the project. So this movie was marketed solely as, for the eye candy that it was. And the story
it was like a
general idea, but it was more about like, hey, this is cutting edge. This is, first in game movie making. It was really more, they invested more in the CGI of it than they did in the cohesive storytelling of it.
Well, and this was directed by the creator of Final Fantasy, so
yes, this was his debut film as a film director.
Which, like, it's interesting that like they allowed that, and not have like someone who's ever done a movie before,
Well, they also made their own movie studio to make it happen.
That's
right.
That was the whole thing. Was they're like, we're doing movies now, also BT Devs.
Did they do any other movies?
No,
because
this is it. Because of
he actually left the company soon after. He actually did not start off as a game person. He went into the industry as a musician. He grew up wanting to be a musician, and
same.
He then briefly studied electronics and programming, and then he joined Square as a part-time employee. And then later he became a full-time employee when Square became an independent company in 1986. So he kind of like worked from the ground up
That's cool.
into this company. Yeah. But yeah, he started off wanting to do music. He's a guitar player.
And that's kind of it too. And with like this, like you said, Chris, it's like this was a tech demo.
Yeah.
And then it's just like a tech demo that spiraled, because like even in the bonus features of like the DVD, they have like Aki walking through a room with a bunch of just like general people to show like how good this is and how much she fits, and she just doesn't. And I think they just like tried to do this just
at
a few years early.
Yeah.
Yeah, like at the time it was good, but you would not believe she was a real person in that world. Like you can't meld them together seamlessly, which is what they were thinking they could do. And like it just wasn't there yet. Although at the time, like this was all groundbreaking. Yeah. And Square had the technology to make cinematics, right? So they went, we can make cinematics for our games. Let's just make it a movie. Mm-hmm. And I think they just thought they could do more than they realized, like how much that actually takes to do.
Yeah, kind of echoing, the past echoes the present. Matt Dillon was supposed to be Gray in this movie. But he
would have been much better.
But he walked out because he saw what they were doing, like with the motion capture and all of that, and he was like, no, they're going to replace us all with CGI people, so I'm out. This is ridiculous. I don't want to be a part of this. And then they hired Alec Baldwin to do it instead.
And and now the writers are getting replaced.
Yeah, that was a big fear. Yeah. A big fear in like when this was announced with the like virtual actress. Mm-hmm. Like that was there were articles out there that were just like, we hate this. This is going to be the death of the movie industry. Those kinds of things where
it's like everything's over.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah. But at the time, back to watching interviews, Mina Wen, she said, I don't think we have to worry about, these types of animations replacing human beings, We're always going to need to see Tom Cruise moving around and shaking his thing. And now, look at where we are here today.
Tom Cruise is still shaking his thing.
But why is Hollywood striking right now? Because one of the reasons is because the industry wants to be able to take their virtual images and use them in films instead of the actors. And they want rights to be able to do that. But
also, like, Tom Cruise is deep faked. And there's like a version of him on TikTok who isn't really him. It's like that's where
Tom Cruise himself isn't. Tom Cruise is still Tom Cruise.
Well, no. But what I mean is like there's somebody who's pretending to be Tom Cruise on TikTok and people thought it was him for like a hot minute. Like those kinds of things is like, that's where the technology is. And this is more of that quote from that interview is just funny to me because like, that's one of the people who kind of got wrapped up in this early.
You'll appreciate this, Allison, because I know how you are with character creations. Like you love a game with good like sliders to really customize your characters. Back during that time when they were making those CGI, like the faces and stuff, the talking, the expressions, everything was done with sliders. So they would do sliders on all the little bits of the face to create the dialogue.
That sounds awful.
And so they would have video of like Mina Wen doing her lines, and they would try to do the sliders to mimic her.
Because it wasn't tracked.
Mouth movement. Your face wasn't tracked the way it is today. And which is
where I'm saying like this was just too early. Like the labor involved in that is wild. Like they thought this could be done. It's crazy to me.
It took them 4 years. So I mean, very long time.
Definition of bit off more than they can chew.
So in this, go ahead. Sorry.
You say that, but at the same time, it was groundbreaking. I think it was just one of those things. It may have failed in story. But as far as like the introduction of CGI in films, I think it was like kind of a groundbreaking thing, and it brought us so much more.
We never would have had really like creepy Tom Hanks and children on the Polar Express if it weren't for this movie.
I hate that movie.
Well,
I love that book. I loved that book growing up, but I hate that movie.
and
but even better, only a couple years later was Gollum. The Lord of the Rings.
And that was
all mocap.
But this was too. This was all motion. Yes, this was.
It was
CGI.
Well, you just said that the face wasn't.
The face wasn't, but they used mocap for the larger scale stuff, but they did still have to use all of the like pretty much every in between and like every movement stuff they had to fine tune with regular stuff. So mocap wasn't exactly there yet, but it was used heavily whenever they were filming everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. We wouldn't like Gollum was a few years later. Because and that was obviously it was because having one CGI character is a little bit, you know, less heavy than having, and of course the Lord of the Rings made their own advancements in digital filmmaking as well. They had to come up with their own algorithm for the armies so that it wouldn't just be a bunch of the same thing copied over and over again. Instead, like each like army acted like their own thing. I think that was probably Two Towers, not.
Yeah, it was for Helm's Deep,
if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's also easier to kind of take as something like Gollum that's fantasy. It's not something that exists.
It's not.
But you believe it exists.
Yeah.
And then this was more Uncanny Valley, where they were just like trying to say this exists, and it can be dropped into an existing world, and you'd believe it. And that was a big claim. Is all.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree with that. But I'm trying to remember, like, you know, where I was in life during that time. That's like right after Y2K, and where we were with like, you know, what games were out at the time that were trying to break the, you know, the mold as far as like realism.
Well, this came out right before. Well, it was right after Y2K, but right before. I don't know why I thought you said 9/11. You didn't. You said Y2K.
But you were thinking about it because it was 2001, and that's what happened that year.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy X came out in 2001. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty.
Well, and to that credit, like the cinematics in Final Fantasy X, I thought they were amazing. They were great.
Oh, Sonic Adventure 2. Jump out at the speed of sound. Flying through the city. Onimusha Lord, SSX Tricky, Luigi's Mansion. A lot of stuff. Oh, Nightfire.
Luigi's Mansion.
No, Agent Under Fire. Never mind.
Nightfire was better.
Nightfire was better. Golden Sun, that came out that year.
Where were we even in the plot at this point? What are we talking about?
Oh, so this
I don't know.
So,
I mean, this is
from plot. We're talking CGI.
Yeah,
well,
I think we're
so
talking about the plot.
The plot is so
blind.
The plot is so boring. It is very much a it's a science fiction movie. The one thing that I will say, and I said this to Hannah whenever we were watching this on Wednesday, is that it kind of in this part in the plot is where they kind of dive into Gray and Aki's relationship, which I always appreciate whenever two romantic leads in a movie have prior romantic involvement, as opposed to being like, hey, here's this, like, you have to fall in love.
You like see the initial meet cute.
Yeah, it's like, here's how they meet, they fall in love, and then after this, like, 2 days, they're like in love with each other forever. It's like, I don't really believe that. But instead they were like, oh no, they were together for a long time, and then she went to space and didn't tell him. She just went to space and didn't tell him. And then he was like,
because that's what you do.
What the hell, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's called spacing someone.
She said I needed some space, and he was like, okay, I'll just leave you alone for a little bit. But that's not what she meant. And then they ghosted
him, which is funny because there's ghosts.
Oh no. But yeah, basically it's a bunch of stuff. They trap like Deep Eyes traps them in an elevator so they can like romantically charge their relationship again. Then Gray and Deep Eyes are charged with like helping Aki find the seventh spirit that they need. We're introduced to Major Elliot, who's another guy, along with James Woods, who played by Matt McKenzie, also played Orin in Final Fantasy X. They go out there, they try and find the spirit. Some people die. They come back. They're like, oh no, she's being corrupted by the spirit. She needs to be locked up. And then they lock her up and the rest of the team. General Hines, so that he can fire the Zeus cannon, then says, oh no, you know what? Let's just let a few spirits in, to the city. That way we can stop them,
Like,
and then
and convince the like the board or like the whatever governing body to let them fire the gun,
right,
or fire the Zeus cannon.
And that goes exactly according to plan, right?
Of course.
You know what's really funny? You described how much time do you think that whole portion of plot you described was? It was like
that was probably about an hour.
right.
Yeah.
You described an hour, and we were all dead silent because nobody cares about anything that happened.
It was
there.
so boring, and it's like, and it's even the parts where the creatures, so the phantoms, it's like scary. The fact that they take your spirit, right? They're like reach through your body, and they take your spirit.
They just slap your soul out of your
basically
body.
Your Gaia spirit.
But it's also like, it's so not scary because of that. Because they have like the soldiers have like armor on. They have these like
they have like normal looking guns.
Like normal looking guns. And apparently the guns fire just regular bullets because they accidentally shoot each other with them and it hurts them. And I'm like, wouldn't it fire like a spirit bullet or something that hurts like these things, like energy weapons of some kind? But apparently no, it's just bullets. So they're shooting.
That would have been great to explain, but again, we don't need to know anything about this movie.
So doesn't go according to plan. The freaking ghosts get into the city and they start traveling through the pipes. Literally, they just murder like everybody.
Yeah, I feel like
everyone dies.
I feel like the phantoms, they needed to be scarier, like you said. Like they didn't feel. Dementors felt scary, yes. And that's kind of what I compare him to. Like you could see in those movies, like how helpless people were, and how there was just like at some point nothing you can do, and it just happens. But like you didn't get a really good sense of there's a word for what I want and I can't find it. Not the risk, but the balance of like what exactly is, how hard is this?
Yeah,
to like keep them away from me. Like the guns work, but they don't, and like I don't know.
And they could also come out of anywhere. Like they were just going through floors and walls. Especially in this scene where they're like trying to get out of New York and everybody's dying. Everyone's favorite characters are dying. First we lose comic relief Neil.
Steve
Buscemi. After he's like joking around with Jane, being like, hey, blah blah blah, let's go on a date, blah 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 blah. And of course he fixes the thing. And as soon as he fixes the thing, he like looks down, there's a thing through his chest. He's like, oh no, pulls the thing. And of course she's like, nah, and just starts shooting because she's mad now. And then of course all the things go around her and then she dies. And then Ryan, and as they're trying to escape from a big phantom that's going after them, he's already been injured because they crashed a car in the least exciting car crash of all time. And he's got a big gun and he's shooting it at this big thing. And then the big thing comes up and it just eats his spirit as well. And then they go out into orbit. They comfort each other over the death of their companions. And in the synopsis, it says, Gray and Aki comfort each other over the deaths of their companions and become intimate. General Hyde, meantime, goes up to the Zeus space station. Is like, hey, we're gonna. And Keith David of the UNSC says, hey, guess what? We're gonna shoot the big. I'm firing my laser at the crater because go for it. And he's like, okay, and he starts shooting it while they go down to try and find the eighth spirit. He shoots it at the crater, kills the eighth spirit. Oh no, what are we gonna do? Then a bunch of visions of stuff happen. She has a dream. Gray's hanging out around stuff, just kind of being like worried. General Haim just keeps shooting the laser until Zeus eventually explodes because he shoots the laser too much. That's literally what happens. He just shoots the laser too much and explodes it. He almost kills Gaia. Then Aki falls into a dream, and then a vision of the eighth spirit with her voice says, with the hope of new life has Gaia changed the phantom within. Makes sense, right? I guess. And then all of a sudden Aki and Dr. Sid say, oh, it's done, we did it, we found the spirit. They're like, well, how do we get it into the thing? Gray has to kill himself basically.
Yeah, he has to
he's got to be a conduit between the two of them. So he holds on.
I had a very watching that scene. It gave me a very Fifth Element kind of love is the answer kind of vibe.
Love will keep us together.
Yeah, like the end of the Fifth Element with the beam shooting up.
Yeah, except that movie was good.
And then everything's finally back at rest.
Wrong.
They go back up to the Black Boa, and
it apparently feels warm. That was Donald Sid like when there's little particles floating into the air.
Oh, that's right. He's like, it feels warm. It feels warm.
Like, why was that necessary to say that?
Right. I felt like that was something they needed to explain, so I understood that it felt like a child peeing next to you in a public pool. That was context I needed rather than context about anything else. Thank you.
It was cold. It was cold before, but now it's warm. Yeah. So that's the plot.
This was the most expensive video game inspired film until The Prince of Persia came out in 2010.
Yeah, I did know that because I looked that up.
I didn't know that at all. That's wild.
Prince of Persia finally cracked that number.
It's bad too, isn't it?
We should watch that one next.
Yeah,
not next. I think we need a break.
I think Resident Evil 2's next.
We'll have to talk about that later, because as much as I want to watch a movie called Prince of Persia with a bunch of white people starring in it,
come on, it was the thing back then.
Oh, shouldn't have been.
You're not wrong.
So yeah, now that we finally got through the plot after 49 minutes,
God.
Man, there were some good actors on this, right?
I didn't hate it. I really didn't hate it. I was bored, but I didn't hate it. I thought story
I didn't like
was
it.
Yeah, it's just like the music could have been good. It sounded good, but it didn't fit all the time.
You know why it didn't fit all the time?
Tell me why.
Tell me why. Because whenever they were doing recording and stuff, and whenever they were making the movie, they didn't have a soundtrack yet. So to put things to music, they used the Titanic soundtrack. So there's a lot of scenes that are actually fit really well with some of the Titanic music.
Huh.
I want to see the Titanic music put back in. I want to know what this is like, actually.
That's one of the animators that was doing some of the art for it was saying, he was talking about how the specifically the tendrils scene with all these gross looking tendrils coming out and these tentacles and pustules and things, and he's like, and you have to look at all this stuff and go to lunch, but it's not so bad if you do it while you're make this while you're listening to ABBA. So he was listening to ABBA while he was doing all the gross tentacly.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
That's awesome.
Right. Those tentacles were gross. I did hate that. I hate tentacle stuff. So that
love ABBA though.
I love ABBA.
ABBA's great.
So that's the reason that the music didn't fit. But
I would have rather watched it with ABBA too. That would have been fun.
That would have been great. Watch Mamma Mia with this soundtrack. See how that sounds. The thing that it was a fine the plot science fiction wise. If this is a science fiction movie, and it was fine. It's okay.
It has the elements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
did it feel like Final Fantasy to you, or did it really?
No, it felt like sci-fi.
It just felt like generic sci-fi to me.
It had the themes that Final Fantasy tends to use, which is
written by the same guy.
Yeah, it's written by the same guy. Sid was in it, so
that's two things.
Matt McKenzie was a voice actor.
The Barrier Cities was kind of a nod to the Final Fantasy games.
I mean, it's hard because
that's what they're saying. I didn't quite, but
it's hard to say because Final Fantasy games are meant to be just standalone pieces, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's hard to compare
But like they all have chocobos and they all have.
But yes,
like
they
you know
all
what I
have
mean. Like there's
some
like more
fantasy. Fantasy is a big part, and this was just sci-fi fantasy, but it just felt sci-fi.
They really missed out. I think if they had done a little bit more fan service and like sprinkled those things in, like chocobos and
magic,
just anything, like just little. Magic. It just could be here and there. Just sprinkle it in. I think that would have helped a lot of people who were going because they were huge fans of the game first.
Yeah. Tell me the bullets are magic, but no, everything was science related, right?
Bullets. Well,
everything was just
use a gunblade. Use use an oversized sword.
Just give me something. Give me something that makes it feel like it's in one of the Final Fantasy worlds. Like this could be Final Fantasy adjacent in some way.
What the director said that makes it a Final Fantasy movie is it's a party of heroes averts impending global holocausts by drawing on their individual skills, gaining knowledge through challenges, and emerging victorious with newfound love and respect for themselves and their companions.
Okay, so God of War is a Final Fantasy movie.
Ever.
Final Fantasy is
Baldur's Gate 3 is a Final Fantasy movie.
Everything that fits in that world to them is Final Fantasy. I think there's other things that make Final Fantasy, and I think it's silly that they miss that.
I'm just saying. That's what he said. I don't know.
Dan, how dare you?
Don't take this personal.
Dare you?
I'm saying that feels so naive, and to me, like that speaks to why this movie isn't great, because you could have titled it anything else, and I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have been so.
We keep saying that though.
I know, and that's the thing. Like if you and listen to me, companies, I know every single company that's about to make a video game movie is listening to our podcast right now. And what they need to know is
they should.
If you're not making a movie about the game, call it something else. And if you want to make a movie about the game, then have people who can be no men who know the game. Because
love
you have
it.
too many yes men. Yeah, you have too many yes men who don't know enough about this world, in my opinion, to do it justice. Like they have their own agenda of I want to tell a story, but it has to be a story.
Or their own agenda of I want to make a bunch of money, and the only way I can do that is by connecting it to this franchise that already has people that like it a lot.
Right.
And we'll just slap the name on and hope no one notices.
Right. Just call it something else. Just go make your movie.
In this particular one, it really was the love child of the guy who created Final Fantasy, because it really, I think, was kind of a tribute to his mom, Aki.
But you're right.
Passed away.
You're right. It sounds like it was that.
It should have just been called The Spirits Within, not Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within.
Like he had this movie idea, right? And it sounds like it sounds conceptually like maybe it would have been a good movie if he just would have ran with it as a totally separate movie. Like it
or make it a game. Maybe it was thought to be a game at first, and then
maybe it was.
Or like maybe he was like, I want to do a movie, and the studio was like, okay, great, you're gonna make a Final Fantasy movie, right? And he was like, oh, yeah, sure,
right. And that's where a lot of these fall is like, you can make it if it's the thing we want you to make, and these people are like, I'll just make it fit, and that you can't fit your star into the square hole. It's just, if you spin it, yeah, maybe it'll fall through, but it's not right. It's just not right.
So speaking of the movie studio, so this was the very first movie produced by what was the movie studio called?
Square Films or something?
Square Studios. Okay, and then after this movie, shut right down, and then never made anything else.
And not only that, financially, since it was such a flop, I read that it made 80 million.
Yeah, something around that. It's 85 million worldwide.
And the budget originally was 70 million, so they actually would have made a little, if they would have stuck into their budget. Yes. But they blasted through it. What was the end? I wrote it down and I don't
like 160 60 something or 127
$137 million is what it ended up costing.
So crazy blew that out.
200 something million today.
Yeah.
So you can see where the financial went so belly up.
It was the extra, the extra 2 years that they needed to use, and those 960 computers in their rendering farm that they had to use.
So one of the reasons why I was a little quiet earlier when we started the podcast, because I was curious to see how many computers of today that would be, and I looked up my computer's PC or CPU, and it would be about 10 of those.
It's so funny to think about now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which again speaks to like it was just it was out of range. Like at the time, they tried to do something that was great for the time, but it was just like it would have been so much easier to wait and do something.
It would.
Well, but at the same time, like Pixar was already doing this stuff.
Well, and
right?
This was also argued to be the reason that Square Enix exists now. And a lot of the things I read, because like they were so financially hurt at that point that right after they were offered to be
they
merged.
had been talking about the merge since like 97, so it was probably a stepping stone.
It was a push,
but it was
like a push, a big push when they went so financially wrong, I think. So who's to say if it would have happened then later at all? If it wasn't like for this movie, which I thought was interesting.
They used a lot of computers to make this. Each character's base body was built from 100,000 polygons, plus more than 300,000 for clothes. Each of Aki's hairs Aki's character model had 60,000 hairs. Each was separately and fully animated and rendered.
That was one guy that did all the hair, and he also did wrinkles. He was the hair and wrinkles animator.
The old hair and wrinkles guy.
Hair and wrinkles.
I thought, and no offense to this guy, I'm sure he did a lot
he did
of
the
hard
best
work.
he could.
The hair was one of the parts that like.
He was so proud of it. He was so proud of his work.
For 2001, it was great.
It was great for 2001.
The love scene where like the light comes through their hair, he was like so proud of that moment. Like in the CGI making of, you're knocking him, Chris. All that hard work he did.
I know.
He did great work, but it sucked. And that's not his fault. He did the best he could with what he had, and we love him for it. However, they were going for photorealistic, and I just wish they wouldn't have kept using that word, because that just it wasn't. I'm sorry, it wasn't.
I mean,
the time.
I mean, do you think that if it was like a little bit better, like if they had more time, do you think that Aki would have been higher than number 87 on Maxim's Hot 100 from 2001?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Wikipedia pictures.
Pretty spicy.
It was. I mean, they put her in a bikini. That's kind of how it goes. But yeah,
right. And they put her in Vogue. Like they were really trying to push her as like.
Well, yeah, and we can. I think now is a good time to kind of go back to they were trying to push Aki as like a virtual actress, which I think is fascinating, and like kind of a really cool idea.
Who's the Twitch streamer now? That's all virtual. What's her name?
Are you talking about like VTubers?
No, there's a Twitch streamer. She's
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know who it is.
I can't remember her name. She's cutting edge. Like it's really cool the technology behind what she does. She's full suit.
It's Code Miko.
Code Miko, yes.
But like they keep trying to do these things in different forms of media. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like modernly, there was like a AI rapper that attempted something very recently, and that went really left for a lot of reasons that we don't have time to discuss.
The K-pop?
No. Well, there's a K-pop one.
Well, no,
there's a K-pop group. There's a K-pop group. There was a rapper that they tried to make a thing. There was another girl that they tried to make a real pop star. There's Seraphine in League of Legends, where they really like teased a lot of stuff about her online as like this real person before they released her. There's Code Miko. There's a lot of stuff. Like we could have a whole podcast where Allison goes too deep into dumb shit about AI trying to be real or like blurring that line enough. But at that time, like no one considered it in this way. Like modernly, they're trying.
Really.
Yeah, modernly they're trying to do it and failing for the record, but they're still trying. Yeah, and that brings a lot of discussion about like what the articles, like I said, we're writing, which is like, is this okay? Like, are we okay with this as a society to like, yeah, there's people who are making these products and making these things real, but there's an art to an industry like this. And can we say that there's artistry in that person doing the work enough to validate our respect? I think is like the big thing that it comes down to.
So what's the current CGI movie? They're making a second one of it. It was really cool. She's got big eyes and she like does the battling in the like arena.
Are you talking about Akira Battle Angel?
Yes.
With the giant eyes.
Yeah, that's like same kind of technology, right? Isn't that one the kind of?
Well, yeah,
done the same way,
but they're not trying to make that actress in multiple movies as an actress.
Yeah, and I mean,
okay.
I mean, Ming-Na said that she would be willing to do that. If whenever they were like, yeah, if it happens, would you be willing
at the
to do
time?
That? Yeah,
I think she probably would have a different opinion of it today.
I mean, and it depends because the way that that's being done is it's almost like you're still the actor. Like it's interesting because it's like it wouldn't be different people or no people being Aki Ross, Dr. Aki Ross. It would still be Ming-Na Wen.
Right.
Is Aki Ross every time it's Aki Ross.
Yeah.
And do you have a different opinion of that because she was already an established voice actress who did like wonderful work on her own as a voice actress? And like, what is the line of being a voice actress or saying this like false person is the actress, which is not what they were trying to do. But they said she is the voice actress for this being.
But rather nowadays, how if we were to make this jump now and go on this trajectory now with the Chat GPT and the AI and where we are right now, we could make that character without an actress.
Well, that's true. Yes,
involved at all.
And that's why it's different.
But it's also that's where it gets into the uncanny valley, where it's like it's still not the same. And like do
you think we'll get there though? Do you think we're going to ever have a point in our lifetime? You don't think we'll ever have a point where we see an AI generated character as that acts in several different movies or whatever as an actress or an actor?
I don't.
Just you don't.
I don't. Not even a little bit, because it's impossible to have.
You can do it.
We're going to come back to this in 5 years, I think. And
okay, sure, that's fine.
Revisit this in 5 years and see where we are, like a time capsule. Because I'm curious.
I just think that as an actor, I don't think that there are like subtleties and things in human emotion and the way that you talk about stuff and the way that you do things that make it impossible to do that.
This is where Hollywood is trying to go.
Yeah, I know, but they can't. It's not going to work. Well, it's not going to be the same. It's the money people who are thinking that this is going to work because they're like, we can save money by having AI stuff, like we can, by scanning this person using the AI background actor, we can save money. We don't have to pay somebody to do it. That's different from an actual person who is looking at like an actor or a performance of something. Like, I don't want to see an AI King Lear. I want to see somebody actually do King Lear, You don't
think they could ever get it to a point where we don't recognize?
I I think that's the point where you guys are separate in what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong. It can happen. It's not a question of can it happen, but I don't think it will be accepted.
Okay, sure.
In the way that like they wanted this actress to kind of be. It was more of a tech demo. It was more of a tech demo at the time of what the future could be, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot of stuff there to unpack. And yes, it can be a thing that exists. But like, again, we could have a whole hour-long discussion about like the semantics of it.
I will just say this in relation to that. I think my guess is, my future prediction is, the way this will come into play and people will be maybe okay with it is some beloved actor is going to pass away and they're going to sign over their rights to their image because they want to exist in the movie world forever. And we will have that actress forever as an AI actor going forward.
And it's kind of done.
That's my prediction.
They were doing that with like
Paul Walker. They sort of
slightly different. It wasn't him signing away that right though. That I think it's going to get to a point where somebody is going to sign away their likeness, and that's how we will have our first.
It can happen. Like rappers.
I mean, Carrie Fisher, they did that, and then like there have been people that have gone to
rappers at concerts and things like that.
Tupac. They tried to do that with
him,
and Michael Jackson as well, I believe.
Lots of different people. Yeah. Like, it can happen. That's not a question to me. But it's just like, do we want it? I don't want it.
Yes and no.
But
like,
we're
I mean,
old.
It's cool to go see.
We're old.
If you didn't get to see Tupac, like, it's cool to see Tupac. But
I don't think it's cool. I don't want it. I don't know.
I think my kid would maybe in the future want to bond with his dad by going to a virtual Rush concert.
Right. Yeah.
I could see that happening. I think this generation, this newer generation, would be okay with it.
Okay, so we're going to
talk
about this.
Fine.
We're going to talk about the movie now.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure that we are.
Yeah, like I said, we could do a whole side thing.
That's why I kind of want to step away from that, because we are approaching.
Yes.
We're approaching the time where we need to stop here. Now, as far as a movie goes, AI aside, or CGI stuff aside, this movie was a flop, as we said. It could have related to the reason why Square didn't make any movies after that. And yeah, it made $85 million worldwide after a budget of $137 million.
It's not what you want.
It's not what you want. This movie. Oh, I gotta look at the domestic box office for 2001. Let's see. Control F. Final. So this movie was ranked 75th in 2001, the year it came out. That
was a tough year for it's like there's a lot of good movies that year.
Yeah.
Just you can say that about every movie we're reviewing.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Fast and Furious, bangers. Spirit Away, Donnie Darko, Mulholland Drive.
We grew up in like such a good time.
Black Hawk Down, Beautiful Mind, Shrek.
Oh, the Fast and the Furious.
Pearl Harbor.
But this ranked 75th. It was beaten by movies such as
A Knight's Tale.
It was beaten by Recess. School's Out, the Recess movie.
Oh well, that makes sense.
The Emperor's
Recess was awesome.
Kiss of the Dragon. What's the worst that could happen? I don't know what that is. It beat out Black Knight, From Hell, Not Another Teen Movie, and Snatch. It beat out Snatch, which is
well,
isn't that Will Smith? Was that Will Smith? Who was in Snatch?
No, that's
you're thinking of Hitch.
You're
Hitch.
Snatch
is Brad Pitt.
Yeah. It's like one of those.
And Jason Statham.
What's the
like Lock, Stock, and
Two Smoking Barrels? Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name? Yeah.
Forget. But I'll figure it out later. So that's where it ranked kind of on the list. So 75th, not bad. But most critics at the time, I think Siskel and Ebert gave it like a 3.9 out of 4 stars. Because of the advancements that it made in computer graphics technology.
And I would say that's probably why a lot of people went and watched it. Like, nobody knew what the plot really was by how it was marketed. It was just about like, oh, look at this cool new thing. Yeah,
I mean, I will say even today, like there are some scenes I'm like, wow, that looks really good.
It's really pretty. They hand painted all the backgrounds. So all of that stuff, all like the background stuff was like
this was
done by hand. Yeah.
This is a neat moment, right?
This
is good.
But you could also tell whenever you're doing it that they spent 4 years in development on it, because there are some scenes like the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie look very different. Like her in the ship in the very beginning versus her in like the crater at the end are two very different looking things, and their eyes were just dead the whole time. But yeah, so now it comes time for us to give it a rating with our handy dandy Game Brew rating system. TM. So I'm gonna start with Carrie. How would you rate this movie?
I give this one 4 out of 8 spirits.
4 out of 8 spirits. Okay, so 50, so like a 50%, like. It was mid-range.
I didn't hate it. I was bored, but I really did look at and appreciate, the technology, at the time of what they were trying to do. And I think that's where I tried to look at it. And I also don't remember, because I played the Final Fantasy games so long ago. I wasn't sitting there trying to compare the game and the movie. So I just looked at it as its own entity. So 4 out of 8.
It didn't really feel like a, and we didn't really talk about this, but it didn't feel like a video game.
It didn't. It didn't feel like a video. It just felt like, and Allison said it. She said it's like this just felt like a sci-fi movie. Like it felt like a science fiction movie. And that's basically what it was. It was just a science fiction movie with by the creators.
Right. And they said they like tried something I read said that they were trying to nod at like the idea of game battles and how like you couldn't see the ghosts a lot of the time, and then they just pop up and it's like, oh, battle time. And I was like, I didn't get that at all. That didn't read.
That did not translate even a little bit.
That didn't feel video game. Sorry.
Well, Allison, what would you give this rating?
A 3 out of 8 ghosts, spirits, phantoms.
Ghosty spirit phantoms. Nice.
Yeah, it was not Final Fantasy, so that docks it a little for me. It was mediocre. It would have been a 4 if it was called The Spirits Within.
Hashtag.
But because it's Final Fantasy Spirits Within, we dock a point. So
not my Final Fantasy.
Not a video game, not Final Fantasy. Sorry, friends.
Christopher,
who made it?
Yeah.
What would you rate this?
I'm gonna give it 3 out of. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 9 Pentium 3 933s.
Okay. I'm going to. Okay. All right. That's fine. Honestly, I would give this as a video game, as like a Final Fantasy movie. I give it a 2 out of 8 spirits. But as a science fiction movie, I give it 6 out of 8 spirits. So, or 5 out of 8 spirits. Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't. My ratios were off.
Got it.
I just think like it would have been better. Yes, it would have been better if it weren't a Final Fantasy thing, because you draw 11-year-olds like me in saying, "Ooh, it's Final Fantasy," and then I go see it and I'm like, "This is a Final Fantasy."
They could have done, like Tyler Perry's blah blah blah. They could have been like Sakaguchi's The Spirit Within.
I wouldn't have understood that as an 11-year-old. But
I know.
if they said it was by the creators of Final Fantasy, the spirits within, then that would have been
there you
go. Because I didn't read who games were by. I was 11. Okay. And then so Allison, was this wait, hold on. Did you do the super No, Allison, was it this better or worse than Warcraft?
Worse.
Worse. Okay, great. We could put that on yours. Because
sure.
that's the only those are the only ones that we have for you. Carrie, you have Warcraft ahead of Super Mario Brothers.
Right. So this falls right in the middle. It's better.
You think it's better than Super Mario?
Better than Mario, worse than Warcraft.
Okay.
Interesting. Chris V'd it into. He just wrote V. He didn't paste. He just V'd in there.
Why interesting that better than Mario?
I liked Mario more than
I think that in some aspects this movie was better, but in enjoyability it wasn't as fun.
Well, I mean, so Mario
it's like
was
dumb and it's bad, but it's
comedy,
it's terribly bad.
And this is a drama. So yeah,
it was a drama.
And video games are meant to be fun, and this was.
But it's not. The drama.
But drama. I will say this kind of falls in the same bucket as Resident Evil for me, in that like it's okay-ish. I think I'm gonna put it ahead of Resident Evil and behind Dead or Alive.
Okay. I'm gonna say, because in mine, so my list is, if you're looking at my list of movies, the two it goes like from the worst. The worst one is Blood Rain, still the worst. Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
God, Blood Rain was fucking bad.
The movie was so bad.
I still need to watch that.
Don't.
No, I will. I need to know.
Don't.
I need to know.
I honestly think. Let's see. Was this better than Hitman for me? No, it wasn't. This was. Yeah, this is third from the bottom for me. So this is better than Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
What? Oh my god.
What?
Lara Croft Tomb Raider sucks.
This was better than Tomb Raider?
Tomb Raider
sucks.
You go watch that.
It's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie.
I don't agree.
Watch it again.
It's not your list.
Watch it again. Watch it again. I promise.
Here to argue about it, so.
I promise it is not as good as you remember it. Like it is.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
It's bad.
You don't have Super Mario Brothers on my list somehow.
You didn't watch it.
I did. I was on that episode.
You were?
I was.
She was.
Then where?
You guys are so mean.
Then is Super Mario?
Bye.
Wait, is Super Mario Bros. Better than Warcraft, or is it? Or where is it in your list?
Warcraft is better. We had this whole discussion.
Is
before.
Super Mario Bros. Better than Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within?
No.
Okay, so then your list goes. So then
you're pretty
Warcraft,
similar. Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. So that's where you and Carrie differ.
Well, but she's a big Final Fantasy fan, so it's like more stingy for her than it is for me.
It's more what?
Stingy? Like it stings more. Like
stingy.
It's not stingy, you know.
I thought you were saying dingy. It's more dingy.
Yeah,
I'm like, what does a
stingy.
small
I mean,
boat
that
have
works
to
too.
do with this?
Because it was a small boat, okay?
For me,
and Mario was a Titanic.
For me, they have very similar issues, but at least like Super Mario Brothers tried to be Mario World, and this just wasn't even Final Fantasy. So that's why they're different.
I did remember Mario Brothers, having watched it before. I did watch this one when it came out, but I did not remember it. So I'll give it that.
All right. Well,
so and for next stuff, I think we should either do. There's a Dead Space animated movie called Dead Space Downfall.
That's right. There is, yes.
I think that's actually decent, though.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good.
Okay.
That's supposed to be pretty good.
There's nothing wrong with us watching a good one.
Yeah, we
from
can watch.
time
We're
to time.
allowed to watch good
There's
palate cleanse.
There's Silent Hill.
Silent Hill, we could do
we could do Resident Evil 2, or we could do the Dante's Inferno animated thing.
I feel like I want to go back to a real people movie. I don't want to watch. I think. Let's see. So either like Resident Evil 2 or Silent Hill.
My vote would be Silent Hill because I haven't seen that one recently.
Because I want to do.
It's got Sean
Bean.
It's got Sean Bean in it.
He's gonna fucking die.
He's gonna die.
He dies in everything.
He's Sean Bean. We all know
that's his thing.
Oh, and
he's cast. It's like no surprise here.
It's got Kim Coates, who was in what was that? The biker TV show,
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, that one. He was in that.
That was such a good show.
He doesn't die in Troy. Sean Bean.
No, because he has to go and
he's got to get lost at sea because he's a discus.
And see his cheating wife.
Yeah. He doesn't die in Flight Plan. Shopping. Oh, look at that long hair he's got in this movie. Percy Jackson in the Olympiads, the Lightning Thief. He doesn't die in that.
Do we want to wrap it up?
Jupiter Ascending. We will. So we are going to wrap it up. So
our little time mistress cracked her whip.
Look at her. So this has been a GameView podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you were here to watch it, if you're listening to it, thank you so much. If anybody wants to follow us, go to all at the Game Brew on everything. We don't have anything that we say at the end of this type of episode. So
see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Get out of here. Do like the
go play games.
Or you could
watch good movies.
We could do the
do
thing
not
from,
watch Blood Rain.
I'm gonna go watch Blood Rain.
Please don't.
From what's it called? Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where he's just like, "What are you still doing here? The podcast is over. Go home.
Bye, Dan.
It's over. Bye.
Bye."
See, the problem with that though is when you leave, then you can't end
That's
it.
right. I can't hit the end stream button. So, all right, that's it. So, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.